What's up, and welcome to another episode of Upland Stories. Today, I'm super excited because we have TML with us, the one and only. Thank me later.
What
Happy to
up?
have you on the show, my friend.
Glad to be here, man. Is this
It
the first
was,
time I've been on the show?
yeah, it is. We've actually never done an episode together. I've never been on the UPX podcast, but I think
Wow.
I think this is the first of many uh, episodes where we can be on each
Oh,
other's shows. So
oh
thanks for
yeah.
being here.
No. Collabs are about to explode for sure.
Oh yeah. So TML, we met for the first time in Vegas. We had a great time getting to know each other, hanging out. We had some fun, and really had just a kind of a. I think it's safe to say we both had a similar experience of being really impressed with the third-party development tools that were announced. What has been some of your takeaways since Vegas, and how has that kind of affected your gameplay with Upland?
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think for those who were watching carefully during Genesis Week, and if you were there, I mean, the vibe was incredible. I've been to a lot of like tech conferences for software and stuff in early days, and even some of the bigger, more advanced ones, and it had a lot of the same energy as an early startup tech company kind of conference, which was cool. And the highlighting of the hackathon and the third party tools. I mean, if you look at prizes and giveaways and whatever, and you look at that was $50,000 for that hackathon. That was the equivalent of what is that? 50 million UPX, right?
Yeah.
Like, so compare when you compare those kind of prizes, and you think, wow, they put a lot of money there, and also like the celebrity judges. It's very odd to me like how that kind of got like swept under the rug a little bit. Like,
Yeah, NFL football players helping judge.
yeah, NBD. There's a bunch of I didn't know who they were, but a bunch of people were like, oh my god, those are like big time NFL players, like just chilling here, doing this hackathon. Like, and they actually asked some really good questions. I was kind of
They
impressed.
did.
And so like I just go, that is the focus of Upland, and they're right. The future of Web3 is not a single layer of technology. Like, and the way I describe Web3 is three layers of like layer zero, just blockchain, like that's just the core technology. And then this layer one, which we pretty much have been in for a while now, where it's the metaverses and the NFT projects, dApps and things like that that are built on top of the blockchain technology.
Yeah.
Uh, what the next wave of Web3 is, which I think is going to be the most impactful, is that layer two. So now we're able to have a layer on top of that. So what we're doing is obscuring the underlying blockchain technology by another layer. So our onboarding is easier, our technology is easier, and all of but now keep in mind, this is only possible because of all the hard work that the layer one metaverses and NFT projects have done, right? Without what they've done, we couldn't build layer two. So it's kind of interesting because Upland gave the keys to the kingdom in a lot of ways to the community, right?
It's
And I
true.
truly believe that was always their plan. Um, because when you listen to them and the way that they talk about their platform, right? They don't really view Upland as a game. And I know that that's what I've been preaching for 2 years since I came in. Like, me, I'm a gamer. I'm like, this is a game. It's a game. And yeah, I won't forget Edon as like at the end of Genesis Week was like, do you still think Upland's a game? And I was like, no, I guess it's not. Like, it's not. It's a layer one like platform. It's an asset management platform. It's a different thing. Um, it's not a game anymore. It's really interesting, actually.
Yeah,
How
it
they did it.
it truly is a platform for many businesses to be built on top of. And yeah, I've been talking about this a lot lately, but I really loved Dirk's response to the Mark Cuban. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read that, but everything he hit in there was just Metaverse is the platform moment for Web3. Like Metaverse is the platform that things can be built on in Web3. So it really makes sense in my mind how that's all coming together. So
Yeah.
so TML, how long have you been playing Upland? How did you first get introduced, and how has the journey been so far?
So I joined in January of 2020. It was through a Twitter ad.
Interesting.
I believe it. I'm not in. I was definitely 0% in the crypto space or NFTs or any of that at the time. Um, my day-to-day job, I'm an enterprise software architect, so we've been hearing a lot about blockchain technology, and our enterprise clients were wanting to do that. And I got this ad that was like, hey, come check out this blockchain game that is, this like Monopoly style. The llama was kind of cool. I was like, all right. I downloaded it on my phone because I was like, I'll never forget. Like, this is a true story. Like, I remember I was like walking to the bathroom. Like, this is the experience. Walking to the bathroom, see the ad, click it, download it. I'm like going to the I had bought like 500,000 UPX before I like left the bathroom that night.
Really?
Oh
So
yeah.
it was intriguing to you day one, like instantly you're like, okay, I'm gonna put some money into this.
Well, okay. To be fair, when I buy an app, the first thing I do is go to the market and then just like buy the hot, like whatever the 99.99 is, and like whatever the packages are. I'm just like buy them all. Like, okay, cool. Like, because I just want to like get my account to like where I can just. 'Cause I don't have a lot
Like
of
with
time.
any mobile game you join, you usually put a little money in.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, most of my mobile games that I actively play, I'm into the 4 or 5 figures. Like actually, like
Wow.
and but like as a gamer, like that's just what we do because that's like I don't really spend money on alcohol or drugs or nice clothes. I mean, I guess I do now. I now have
Some
a
Upland
clothing
merch.
like I just wear like merch or plain t-shirts. Like I don't really have expensive tastes.
Yeah, it's a hobby and it's something you enjoy putting a little money into.
Yeah, so like, and that's the thing of gamers. Like, we've been doing that for years. Like, if I can get an app and I can play it and I can do that, yeah. And so it turns out like I bought and I thought I was crushing. I was like, oh, no one's even over here. I was in like the top corner. I have to go back and look, but it's in the middle of nowhere in San Francisco. Like, it's not a collection. It's nothing. But I was like, oh, I can get King of the Street. So I like bought a bunch, but they were all like 15 or 20,000 UPX a piece. It was actually the first name. This is a true story. The first neighborhood I minted in Upland was the last neighborhood to mint out in San Francisco.
Really?
Like, that's how bad the first neighborhood I picked was. It was literally the last one to get minted because it was garbage. It's obviously okay now, but like there to give you an idea, I could have bought the painted ladies. I at Mint. I could have.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
But they were
Twist.
expensive, right? Like they were priced.
Yeah, but I mean, for as much money as I was dumping, like I could have, like pivoted. Twisted Lumbar was still unminted.
Jeez. I can't
Like
imagine that.
Curator. I mean, there was plenty of Curator, plenty of Financial District. Like everything you think of now, it could have been minted. I was minting hundreds of thousands of nothing. Like actually
So
nothing.
you're truly an OG. You're in very early.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as because I mean it came into open beta at the beginning of 2020. So like I wasn't in the closed beta. I didn't get that lucky, but I was in very soon after that. And so, yeah, at the time, I mean, it was, there was a ton of stuff still to mint.
Wow.
And I remember not understanding what I wanted to mint. And like, by the time I figured it out, all the good stuff had actually been minted by that point. Um, and yeah, I started buying ones. That was like, because I was like, okay, like I know how these games tend to work is like if you have a niche, like and you market a niche, then that, so that became my thing. It's like I was hunting for ones. Now keep in mind,
Like for like the like has one in the address, right? Like
yeah, so like
First
one,
Main Street or whatever,
yeah,
right?
one Main Street, like
Cool.
my entire financial district, which was probably one of my biggest purchases early on, is like one California, one Mission Street,
Wow.
one. It's all, they're all ones, and they're all like,
That's cool.
it was a lot. And then like I own like one Lombard Avenue. But the thing is, you can keep in mind when I started, there was, you got 3 cents a day. That's it. There
Oh,
was,
that's like it was just capped.
that's it. There was three a day. There was no airplanes. Like that's it. You got
So you
three
can't
cents.
freely move around. It's like you got to make strategic moves every day.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh well, I really want to mint that. I guess I have to wait because like there wasn't enough properties. The properties that were being sold were like way overpriced, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody's selling under mint.
But
Like,
your block explorer was still randomly floating around as it does today, right?
yeah,
So you
yeah.
could
So
get
he
lucky.
floats around. So you're like, you check back periodically. Like, is it over the spot I want? No, I
Yeah.
have to wait for the next day to resend. So like, people don't understand. There was no treasure hunts. There was no anything. It was 21 collections. It was 3 cents a day. Like that was the game. Um, there's like, and the other thing was like today I can go to a search site and go show me every address that's just one and then a name. It didn't have that back then. I was paying people to like hunt manually, like because there was no analytics. So it was,
Manually go click on every property to see which ones have a one in it.
yep,
Wow.
yeah. And then I got connected with somebody early on who luckily was like, I can just like scrape the chain and find all those for you. And I was like, oh really? And
That's
then
cool.
they sent me a list. And I remember I just was like every couple of days I was just like going like buying down the bottom ones, and like I think I own a couple hundred like one addresses in San
In
Francisco.
San Francisco. Wow.
Yeah.
That'll definitely pay off in the long run.
I mean, again, it created a bit of a market too. And then at the time, it's funny, I was, in order for me to see my collection, because again, I mean, not much has changed in looking at your properties. No comments there. But like, I priced them all at $111,111. So it was like six ones, right?
Oh, okay.
And so the reason I did that is because then you could reverse search so you'd like zoom out and search the entire thing for sale. And then I could see all of my ones together because they would all have the same price. And so like that was the only way I could kind of like show my collection of ones, is so I like did that. And then other people like almost kind of mockingly started doing the same thing of like putting their ones up for that amount. Um, and what's really funny is earlier this year, I had to start taking them down because they were selling.
Oh, people started buying some of them. Dang.
Yeah, I probably sold 6 or 7 of them accidentally. Not accidentally, but like, oh, I didn't take them, so I had to like move it up. There's like 7 ones now, and it's funny because I
Jeez.
actually bought probably 4 or 5 secondary markets at that price of like 111,000 that was set, and I was like, you know what, it's worth it now. Like I'm buying it. I paid $111 for one. I remember in the country.
Wow.
It's really interesting. And then yeah, ever since then, like people come to me with ones. I don't know if it's been expanded, but at the time of launch, there was only one in Fresno. Um,
Really?
yeah, which was crazy. There was only one property, and I have it. Luckily, I don't know since the expansion of Clovis if other ones got added, but there was only one address in Fresno, and I
You locked that one down?
lock that one down. Manhattan's out of control. I think I own like one Liberty Street, which is probably my biggest.
There's probably quite a few, and there's probably a lot in Manhattan.
Yeah. So that was like the beginning. The like if I'm thinking about like my account trajectory, I mean, if you want the whole like, TML backstory, like the first big set was like I invested like thousands to get my financial district set. Then the next, I think Curator was next, and Curator was interesting because I really wanted the Curator set, but it ended up getting minted out, or like the ones that weren't minted were like super, like 10,000, like 10 million UPX or some nonsense. I remember it being very, very expensive. And I was like, dang. Then Upland had 2 waves of unreleased things getting launched. One, they had, I believe they launched 9 new curators. And so that was there. And I remember I like stocked them. Like I went and I was like I pre-planned, because one is the Disney Museum, which is in the middle of a park. Like you cannot get to it. And then a submarine, which you can't get to, and then maritime. And I'll never forget, like it was, the crazy thing is if this happened today, like you wouldn't have like the freedom, like no one could do what I did because they would be gone so quick, right?
Yep.
But I remember like that morning, like I had practiced for like 2 days sending from one spot. I bought a property on the edge, and I just practiced sending my Explorer, like to try and get the right angle and like hope that the curves hit to be able to mint it at the exact time. So like I timed it, and I got videos of it. It was insane. Like the second they became available, my Block Explorer was right there. I minted Disney. I jumped over, had a really lucky float, grabbed the submarine, and then I picked up maritime.
Jeez.
That was like insane. That was a couple thousand, but I ended up flipping that last year.
Oh yeah, those are worth a lot.
Yeah, I think I sold the set for 25,000.
Yeah.
Not I think I sold the set for 20,000. I know how much I sold it for. I ended up selling it for 25,000. Which at the time I was like, I didn't really want to sell it, but
did you get USD out for those, or just 25 million UPX for that
no,
one?
No, $25,000.
Wow.
Cash.
Yeah, impressive.
Yeah. No, I've probably gotten 70,000 out in cash.
Serious?
Yeah.
You're a big chunk of that 8 million or whatever that's been taken out.
Well, a lot of it's OTC. So like that 25, I don't remember how much of that went through, but that was before all the regulations, etc. And like at the time, we couldn't sell properties for that much. Like it was like a $500 cap.
So you were able to take out like $25,000 pretty much in one transaction. The biggest one I had is like $10,000 when Fiat was first announced. I had a Skyline Manhattan go for 10,000, and I think I could have honestly got more than that, but I just wanted to see if I could get a big chunk out like that at once. And so that was like an awesome feeling. Like when you first get a big chunk of money out, it's like, okay, there's something going on here, you know?
Yeah. For sure. Like, and I remember because we started out small, like the first cap on Fiat was $500. And I remember because I liked testing, like I always was like, I want to sell at the cap. Like I always so as soon as that came out, I was like, what are some properties I can sell for $500? And so I sold. So do you know what the secret island is? Do you know about the secret island?
Yeah, the Cat Island.
Not Cat Island. There's like 8 properties that were just like minted in the middle of the ocean. Like
really?
Like incorrect. Like they're just like off the map. And like so there's 8 properties that are just completely off the map.
And it's technically San Francisco?
It's in San Francisco, but they're like they're just in the Bay, like
Okay.
and so there's like a set of five, or yeah, I think there's a set of five, and then there was a set of two, and I had bought the set of two, and so then I sold each one of those for $500, and then I sold a Cat Island, which is the four that are up there, for $500.
Wow.
And then they did, and so Upland did like a little news piece on me and the guy who bought them, like, oh, this is really cool, like, if you got out. And then they upped it to $10,000. And I can't remember. I feel like I sold two properties for $10,000. Now I feel bad for not remembering which. One of them was a Cat Island property. So like it's
Yep.
crazy. So I sold. Oh man, Cat Island is such a. I could do like we could do a whole episode on the drama of Cat Island.
Yeah, Cat Island is crazy.
Oh, if you weren't around, like, so they launched Cat Island where you retire these crypto kitties, which was cool.
Yep.
Which, by the way, if you go upland.guru, so I was paying people to rename their crypto kitties upland.guru before shipping them to Cat Island, because that was the site I was running at the time. So like half the cats up there are named upland.guru, which is an old site of mine.
That's awesome.
Which is funny. And then they released four properties, and you had to, like, they released a channel, but it was invisible, like you couldn't see it. So your Block Explorer, if you got lucky, would just start bouncing in the ocean, and then it was like, then you would end up on Cat Island, and then you would just like bounce around in Cat Island. And so the day that they unmint, like they were like, boom, they're available to mint. It took 8 hours. It took 8 hours for somebody to get there to mint it, because
Really?
we were all sitting in chat watching Block Explorers like come by it and like miss it or like not get it. So I'm not even kidding you, Doyle. 8 hours we sat there like calling each other, and like if somebody's Block Explorer was coming up, like, bro, where's your Block Explorer? Like, no, it's going to be another 2 hours because you're bouncing around this huge freaking island.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And so like there was like teams of us, like as soon as somebody minted the first one, right, it was going to be mad dash to mint the other three.
Oh yeah,
because they were only like, I don't know, 50,000 UPX or something. Like they weren't expensive to mint. And so it was literally just a matter of like who was going to get it, which was so fun. So it was drama filled. It was so much drama. Anyway, so those got minted. Mr. Monopoly, I think, minted the first one, but he minted it on my behalf. So I got that one. Z Hidalgo and Nisharan, I think, were the other two that minted. And then the fourth one was locked because of, honestly, just a dispute. Like it was drama, because of drama, essentially. Oh, dang, did I get kicked out of the?
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, okay, so then here's what happened. Sorry, I'm a little ADD. So what happened was I sold the one for 500, and then there was a minting contest. So then like months later, they're like, okay, we're going to release this last one. And if you win the minting contest, then you get the Cat Island. So I won the minting contest to get to get the new Cat Island that just unlocked. So now I have a Cat Island. Like, cool. Then they up it to 10,000. I'm like, Zia Hidalgo, I think, sells his for 10,000. I'm like, okay. I put mine up for 10,000. It sells. I'm like, okay, I shouldn't have sold for 500. And then I forget what else. I feel like I sold another big property for 10,000. And then, yeah, I've had a lot of other really successful sales, which has been fun. But yeah, no, that was crazy. And then the airports, I'm trying to think of where the airports came in on that, because the airport minting was really crazy as well.
Like the first terminals to be released.
Yeah, because I mean, I think at one point I had like five terminals. I bought all of the one terminals in, so like in San Francisco at one point I had all of them, but I sold those for some fiat. And the JFK ones, I had a couple JFK. They sat there. Man, they sat there for weeks. Like we would sit there on like the original like podcast is like us just sitting there like, what should we buy? Like,
that's funny.
Like there's this airport maybe, and then all of a sudden like Dizzy would be like, "Ma," and I'd be like, "Damn it, Dizzy, you just bought that? Like, come on!" And like he would just go on a tear. Yeah, man, it was a completely different game back then, but it was fun. And then
So
yeah,
so what do you think about how it's evolved over time? And like as so I've heard you say in the past like you were treating it first and foremost as a game and not necessarily as an investment. You weren't going to be mad if you lost your money, right?
yeah, and I mean, I still believe that. I don't. I mean, I don't know because I don't like invest. Like, I'm not really a big. I don't know. To me, investments are like stocks, bonds, even like I guess technically like cryptocurrency isn't. To me, an investment is where you give money to something and you just hope it does well, which I guess that's
Yeah.
what people are doing with Upland, right? So I guess in that sense, a lot of people do trade it as an investment of like, I'm going to buy something because I believe in whatever it's being backed, right? I believe in the
Yep.
coin. I believe in, if I'm buying shares in a company, I believe that this company is going to do well. And I think a lot of people are treating that like, well, I'm going to buy these blue squares because I think Upland's going to do good.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, but that's not it. Like, you're not going to be successful doing that, in my opinion. Like, my success is not because I bought blue squares and then Upland was successful. My success is because I bought strategic blue squares and then marketed them and
Yep.
promoted them and generated value and interest in them, right? Like, I created a market for addresses that are start with the number one or that are the number one. Like, I created, like that's to me, like you have to create value. Like that's where community comes in, right? Like
Exactly.
if you look at the price of a high value node or community that has a lot of action and participation, the prices on those properties are significantly higher than literally one street over that's in a different neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's why I go, it's not a game, or it's not, sorry, it's not an investment because you have to work. To me, like to make money in Upland, you kind of have to work. Like if you
It's
really
true.
want to be successful, right?
It's very true.
So that's why I just go, it's closer to a job almost than like,
Yeah, it's play to earn, right? Like in and it's strategized to earn and it's networking. Like some of the people who've made crazy amounts of money are networking all the time on Discord. They're reaching out to people, they're making deals. It's truly a job. Like they're earning based on their time put in, and
100%.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what we were talking about yesterday on the podcast, Ben 68. Like it's those who have worked within the community and done a lot of that who have been truly successful. Like, and that minimizes risk. Like when you join a node, for example, when you join a group, when you if you're just trying to play, just get collections and then flip those collections, like you can be very successful that way. I think you have less risk when you're like getting involved with a community who is all working together for something. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, I honestly think that's kind of, you know, not to bring up the Mark Cuban thing, but I kind of think that's what Mark Cuban was even hinting at. Like these
It
people
is.
that are just out buying random properties and land. And that's not a dig at Upland either. That's a dig at the entire metaverse space of these land grabs and land sales and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, like that's not like if all of a sudden we started selling like actual land in the real world, like it's the equivalent of like people just like, oh, well, I can buy cheap land in Siberia. Like, cool, but why are you doing that? Like, what's the value? What's your plan with that land?
Yeah.
You can't farm on it. You can't build on it. Like, what are you doing? Um, and I think some games create and some metaverses create like a facade that, oh well, hey, there's going to be all this cool stuff. I think Upland has done it right where they've gone like, yeah, there's going to be cool stuff in layer two. Like, we're going to give you, they're focused, in my opinion, correctly on like the economy and asset management and the transactions per second against the blockchain and all of that. So I just go, um, like that. To me, that would be, I don't know, that's the future. Like, uh, it's kind of hard to explain because here's the thing. I truly believe that if Upland 2 years ago came out and said, "Hey, who wants to play in a digital asset management playground? We're going to let you buy properties and build things, and it's going to be digital asset management, and then we're going to give, and then third parties are going to use that to build cool stuff on." People are like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just give me everything in one place.
Yeah.
Look at Decentraland. That's what I want. And I think that Upland had a very different vision, and so they had to kind of play the game a little bit of like, yeah, we'll add treasure hunts, we'll give you some things to do, but like at the end of the day, like it's not a game. It's really a digital. It's like a really cool UX to digital assets that you can kind of interact with. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that explanation. That really is where these third-party developers come into play. And Upland is saying, we invite you, come and create apps, come and create experiences, come and create anything you can dream of on top of the Upland Metaverse. And that is where it really goes, and that is where Upland is really going to explode. As we start to see big brands come in, as we start to see, I know that you're working on UPX.world. I think we should talk about some of the goals and plans for UPX.world that you're working on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah, I mean, UPX.world is it's a beast. So we are a fully incorporated. So UPX.world Inc. is a C corp with stocks. You can look it up in the Texas registry. UPX.world Inc. And it is really, it's a Web3 layer 2 gaming platform. And we are creating essentially what we're calling experiences with an X, because everything we do is Xlander experiences, stuff like that. And so we are creating different experiences for different metaverses and NFT projects. Obviously, Upland being at the core of that, a huge inspiration for what we're building, and one of the core experiences we're going to build out, which is these meta phases, which is a fancy way of saying we take a partial copy of a neighborhood or an individual plot and put it into an instance, and then have games and stuff built on top of it. There's been some live demos of the Xlander, which is the 3D avatar. So that's your character in UPX.world is an Xlander. And we now have flight, so jetpacks, so you can actually like fly around your neighborhood.
Wow.
Which is super cool. And then the latest video that we just dropped a couple days ago is he's got a gun now. He like whips out a big alien style gun and blows up a house. And so destructible environments, like, because you can't do that in layer 1, right? If somebody was like, oh, I'm going to boom, I just blew up your house. Like, no, that's not cool, right?
So I'm curious how this ties in from because a lot of it, I think what's important for a lot of people is to understand like the motivation behind a lot of these things. Is this another like money making investment thing, or is this more geared towards the gamer to have gaming experiences, or does it kind of meet both worlds pretty well?
No, that's a fantastic question. So this is not, so in the Web3 space, there's a lot of these, like, first of all, UPX.world is not selling NFTs at all. Like,
Okay.
we aren't going to sell NFTs. Like, that's just not our way of doing things. And so we go, yeah, I mean, obviously it's a for-profit corporation, right? Like, the goal of UPX.world is certainly to make money. But we're going to be doing so in a completely different way, because we are standing up a gaming platform that's geared towards the gamers. So when our heavy marketing comes out, it's going to be geared towards the Minecraft players, the Roblox players, the Fortnite players. Those are the players we want to come in and give a new experience to in Web3. And then hopefully convince them, because as you know, NFT is a 3-letter word that you cannot say in the gaming space. You will be
you're people with a gaming background, you know, Xbox, PlayStation, PC gamers, Nintendo gamers. These people currently, and I don't know why, but they've just decided unanimously, to the majority of them, to hate the word NFT. They think it's a scam. They think it's bad for gaming. I personally have a very different approach. I think it's the best technology to ever come to gamers, and it's more so finding the right balance of those two things, right?
Bingo. Yeah. No, I could not agree anymore. Like, I mean, I can tell you why the gamer. I mean, because let's look at the history of the gamer, right? Especially a gamer like that's, you know, maybe, you know, approaching anywhere from like say 25 to 45, right? Yep. Like people that grew up with maybe a simpler gaming system where you could go buy a game for, you know, let's even just say $50. We'll just even go to like the more recent stuff, like $50. But you pay $50 in that state. You'd have a full game, you'd have a full experience, you'd have online, all that good stuff, right? Yep. And then it slowly got to like, okay, well now you have these pre-orders and you have these expansions, and then like that got kind of janky. Steam started coming out with like, oh, well, you can buy into the beta, and then some games never even get launched, and then Kickstarter games, and like that had weird things, and then microtransactions hit, and like all of these like things were just like grinding against gamers of like, why is this so greedy? Like the space just became so greedy. And then NFTs hit. And if you listen to, and no offense to any crypto bros, but if you listen to them, like I joined some of these Twitter spaces, it is toxic. Like it is literally like, how can we make money at any expense? Like pump and dump, let's go, rally to crash a market together, which again, I'm all for fight the man. Like, don't get me wrong, but that isn't like, you're only hurting our own community. Like, because you're stealing, you're not Robin Hood. I mean, now granted, like some of the stuff like against like GameStop and some of the other things, brilliant. Those are really interesting. But if you're talking about just like people who are just printing NFTs, you're not taking money from global giants because they're not buying your randomly generated nonsense. You're hurting the community who's supporting you because you're pumping out garbage and not supporting it. And so like it's sad, honestly.
Yeah, and that's definitely where the bad taste comes from for gamers. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like we did have a period for the longest time where gamers, like you said, would just buy a game. You'd have a, you know, let's go back to Nintendo days, you know, Super Nintendo, N64. That's what I grew up playing. You'd buy a game, you'd have the full experience. I mean, Ocarina of Time on N64 is literally, to this day, still ranked like one of the best games of all time, like ever. And there's no updates to it. They nailed it. They got it right. They delivered it. And you can play that game over and over and have an awesome experience. And now you have developers building. Now, you do have to give it to them. We're doing more advanced things. Like it's not like we're incorporating online play in a lot of these games, but you have games like Cyberpunk, like which was one of the most hyped games of the past like 5 years. And it was a complete flop. Like they delivered an unpolished game. And yeah, so gamers are getting fed up with like being sold, and then you also have these other games where they say they're like free to play, or they get you in on buying all these loot boxes, and then there's these loot box scams pretty much where you have to put in hundreds of dollars to get any items that you want. So I get it. I think that's the background on why gamers are scared of the implications of being gypped through NFTs.
Yeah.
However, I think when you flip it on its head and you say, imagine those skins that in Fortnite. Fortnite's one of the biggest games recently to take off, and it's completely free to play.
Mm-hmm.
People buy skins. But what's funny is probably your average player who's over 20 years old who actually has a job and can afford to put money in the game, instead of paying $50 or $60 a game like people pay today for these one-off games, you play the game for free, but people are paying thousands of dollars. Like, I think your average players probably put in hundreds of dollars into Fortnite.
It's weird to think like,
And it's free. They flipped it on its head, and people actually like that. But here's the thing: imagine if those skins you invested in season one, like the skeleton skin, was super popular because Myth used it, and he was a popular streamer of that
yeah.
game, and he was always using the skeleton skin. People were dying to get their hands on one of those. Imagine if they were NFTs, skins, and you could sell that, and you could actually profit off you being in the game early, you investing in that skin. Instead, gamers are actually stuck with like, okay, I invested money and my guy looks cool, but as soon as this game goes out of style, like I just lost all my money, and there's not really anything to show off anymore. There's not really anything cool anymore, and all you have is the experiences you had and some lost money. You know.
But okay, so and you know what? I'm glad that you said it the way that you said it, because that is the view from the outside in. From like, because are you more crypto or more gamer? What's your background more lean towards?
Way more gamer than crypto. I'm big Xbox player. Like
Okay,
Halo, I'd play Halo 2 tournaments and things like that. So yeah, it's
yeah. So
pretty.
like, I don't know, and I mean, I definitely look back at games that I've spent a lot of money on and been like, oh man, it's a shame that that game didn't work out or it's not popular. But like, that doesn't, and I feel like the NFT world looks at that and goes, oh well, imagine if it was a skin. Well, it's cool, or if it was an NFT, and then it's like, well, that's cool, but if the game stops being valuable, then you, the thing is, we I think trying to convince a gamer that there's an investment opportunity in their games is the wrong way to approach it. I actually don't agree that all those skins should be NFTs. And in fact, in UPX.world, we're not selling NFTs. Because here's the thing is, the gamers are okay. Like you said, we're happy to pay thousands of dollars to have that cool skin. I'm glad if I'm a season one holder that some rich person can't just come in and then buy that skin. Like, you can't do that. Like, there was only, you
Yep,
had to be here to get
you
that.
had your chance. Yep.
Like, and there's something cool about that. And so what we're doing is, and I think that this is, in my opinion, obviously, the solution is that you kind of have to take the two concepts. So we have gamers and microtransactions, and they're very happy to have just in-game items that they own and for the game. And then you have these NFTs, which people are like, how do I get value out of that, right? So how do I get value? So now imagine that that skeleton suit that you're talking about, right? Well,
Yep.
whoever created, so all of that money was going back to whoever owns Fortnite, whatever
Yeah.
game
Epic
studio.
Games.
Epic Game, yeah. And so every time you bought one, it just went to them. Now imagine the artist or designer of that, right? That the blueprint of it, the original asset record is an NFT. So that's in layer one. And so you have an artist who owns the skin blueprint in layer one and then offers it as an in app purchase in layer two. So when a player comes into layer two and they go, ooh, that skin's really cool, then whoever made it, whoever owns the original copy of it gets a profit, right? So every time it's, and so but the in-app purchases are just that. They're just like any other game in-app purchase. It's account bound, and so we're changing the conversation of decentralization of assets and individual ownership to decentralization of revenue streams. The problem with the gaming company isn't that you don't own your own assets. A gamer doesn't actually care. As long as my assets are safe, we've been playing years and years,
It's
trusting
true.
game servers to when I log in, my items will be there. Like, that's your job. Your job as a gaming studio is to make sure when a player logs in that their items are there. We trust gaming studios. That's the agreement between a gamer and a game studio. We don't need true ownership of our items. Like, that's a myth. I think. Like, I think vast majority of gamers are like, that's cool. I don't care. Um, and so I go, what we need to do is we need to leverage that true ownership and then give them value. Stop trying to print a million NFTs, because here's what happens. Let's say that was an NFT, and so somebody could buy a bunch of them and then flood the market or hog the market, and like it just becomes this whole negative aspect, as opposed to like what it should be is just a really cool item in the game. And so that's what UPX.world's trying to change the narrative of, like, we're not printing out NFTs for everything. It's not about true ownership. It's about decentralization of revenue streams. It's about elevating layer one games and creators to be able to generate additional revenue and value from their layer one assets in a layer two environment. And then from there, we would take the players who are just coming in and buying. And like, imagine if all of a sudden you realize that skeleton suit, that you could own the blueprint to that skeleton suit for
Yeah,
$10,000.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah,
Let me ask a few kind of other before we dig into that a little
sure.
bit deeper, like the layer 1 versus layer 2. Let me ask you a few different scenarios.
Okay.
One, I just heard news that Fortnite skins are going to be available in the popular game Destiny. So that to me, like I almost speculated when I saw that, like they might be preparing the game market for cross game skins, and you could see that's where NFTs are make an interesting spot, because like imagine that a skin that you did buy in Fortnite and Fortnite isn't cool anymore, that you still paid for that and you could use it in Destiny regardless of if you could even sell it to someone else. I think that alone is an interesting concept. I'm not sure if they have that level of connection. I actually don't think. I didn't read into it enough to see if that's what they did. I think it's just you can now buy skins that were in Fortnite in Destiny. But I don't think they necessarily cross transfer.
Like if you own it in Fortnite, you'll have it available in Destiny, kind of thing.
Yeah, I need to check that. So check
Yeah.
that. I'll try to write that in the comments or something. But that to me is an interesting idea. The other one is the idea of the actual game being an NFT. Like you purchased a game, and that's where these free to play ones are interesting. But if you actually purchased Halo, and you want to, or let's even say movies. If you purchase a digital copy of a movie and that movie code you have is an NFT, and then you want to sell it to someone else, like I think that idea is really interesting as well too.
Yeah, no, from a digital media perspective, I think that has huge value implications, right?
Yeah.
As far as like movies, music for sure.
Yeah,
Is
like imagine like famous Disney movies. Let's say like The Lion King.
mhm.
Imagine Disney actually only released like 5 million copies and they're NFTs, and like the only way to watch it is if you are renting that from someone else or you are buying it. And obviously we've seen in other NFT sales that the original company is still making money. When it gets resold, they're often getting like 10% of that money. And I don't know, in some of these things they could possibly even make more money, because if you have scarcity of that item, it'll get resold so many times. And I don't know. I just think it's an interesting concept to theorize about.
Yeah, it is an interesting concept for sure. I'll be interested to see. I mean, I know movie studios, especially like special clips or like extra bonus stuff, um, or just like an NFT with the purchase of a movie. I think that there's opportunity to leverage kind of like a fan score almost as well too. Like if you're a Disney fanatic and you own like all of the Disney things, like that should be because again, to me, Web3 the the difficulty thing is when you take like a Web2 company or even a Web2 just like concept, like the relationship between a consumer and Disney, let's say, that is very much like Disney going, we're Disney, you need to worship us. Like
Yeah.
we have the mouse, we have the lightsabers, we have the
Yep.
cute characters. Like that's it. You must bow to us if you want access to this content. You come to us.
Yep.
And I think Web3 is saying, no, you need us. Like we're the consumer. Like, and we have a bunch of really good creators. Like we can make our own cool stuff and actually support each other. We don't need you anymore, Disney. And in fact, like we're over here. Like we'll let you know when we're ready to let you in. We're kind of doing our own thing. Maybe in the future we'll like let you have like a Disney experience in UPX.world, but like you're going to be coming to us for that. Like let's be very clear, the future of Web3 is not us begging these, brands to come in. It's going to be us going, who do we want to work with?
Yep.
Because we control the market now. The community controls the market. The community dictates, the ecosystem. It's going to be a completely different balance. And so it's really hard. I think it's going to be a hard transition for these companies that are used to being essentially worshipped, right? Like, honestly, like rabid
Yeah.
fan bases. Obviously, that's not going to go away anytime soon. But I think the market will start to realize like, wait, like why are we paying like five people billions of dollars when instead we could support like all of those digital artists that work for Pixar and Disney and all of that?
Could be doing all this on their own. Yeah.
They should be rich. Whoever drew and created an animated Wally should be rich. That Wally is freaking awesome, but they're not.
Yep.
They work a day job just like us. Like, and so they're not going to get any revenue of anything ever that's related to that because it's owned by Disney. And so what we're saying is, and I think that was the intent of this true ownership is like you create art and you own it and then you can sell it. I think that the problem was that it's not about creating, it's that individual piece of art shouldn't then be sold 10,000 times. It should be held and then essentially licensed or like used 10,000 times to generate a tremendous amount of value for that original asset,
Okay.
and to create revenue streams for that asset owner, and creator. And so I think that is where I feel like Web3 kind of like the layer one, it kind of stops there. And I think we've had a bit of churn, in innovation, especially in the space. And so I see layer two and decentralization of revenue streams. And some of the stuff we're doing is going to be like, we talked about it. So, and I'll give it like a tidbit. So for instance, we have, are you a Genesis Xlander? Did you get on the Genesis ship?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I hope you did because like so we have like we're creating different skins and different things for the characters. One of the things is going to be the Genesis glow, which is this white, really cool aura, right, for your Xlander. And all of the Genesis Xlanders are going to be issued in and essentially we call them OARs, original asset record, which is just a fancy way of saying an NFT that will represent your ownership of the Genesis Glow. So I think there's like 300 and change Genesis Xlanders. So you'll get one divided by however many 300 profit if we put it up for in-app purchase. So we say, hey, we're going to put this Genesis Glow up as an in-app purchase, and the profit share will be among all the Genesis Xlanders. And then we were even talking like, I really like what Upland's doing with the idea of like the governance, right? I don't like DAOs personally. Like UPX.world's never going to be a DAO. I think it needs a central structure. But if you look at, say, let's take the Genesis Glow, for instance. So let's say that every month that all the Genesis X-Landers, there's a vote, and you go and you vote for, do you want it to be sold as an in-app purchase? Yes, no. And if it's yes, how much do you want it to be sold for? 99 cents, $9.99, or $99.99, right? So now the Genesis X-Landers can decide, well, hey, we don't even want to sell this. We want it to be exclusive. So we're taking it off the market. We decide as the owners of this every month, no, we're not going to sell it. Boop, it's off the market. And then next month they go, yeah, we're going to put it up, but it's $100. It's $99.99. You want it, it's $99.99. And then like, okay, well that didn't sell. And then there's a group that like browse with like, we need to sell it for 99 cents. We want money. And I go, okay, we're going to vote it up 99 cents for that month. Then all of a sudden it's like, buy it, right? Like it creates a whole different ecosystem, and the value generation, you're not staking. So like, I feel like that was the other thing that people tried is like, let's have this NFT and then you stake it and you get value back, right?
Yeah.
What are you getting? I never understood you're staking it, which just says, hey, here's my NFT, you're holding it. And then you're going to pay me this completely made up coin. And then you're going to tell me it has value. And then you're going to put it on the market. And then there's going to be these crypto goblins that just come and like buy up all the token to try and make profit.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's how we generate revenue. And then the floor falls out and then everyone loses all their money. And you just hope that you got your money out first. And it's like a terrible system where this.
Yeah. And it's not sustainable. It's not a true economy. Yeah.
Right? Like it baffled me. Like I'm not an econ major, but you can't just generate something from nothing. And so in this way, if you create a cool art, let's say you make a digital t-shirt and you're selling at the in-app store. If you don't sell anything, you don't make any money. Like that's it. Like we're not going to just give you passive income for nothing. But if you make a cool t-shirt, like that guy who promoted the skeleton, right? So he was a big streamer. So imagine you're a big streamer and instead of rocking somebody else's thing, you make your own. And then you're the original owner of that asset, right? And then you wear it and you go, if you don't have this suit, you're not cool. Like this is the cool suit to own. Get it. And get it at my store right now. Boom, it's on sale. And they go buy it and the profit then goes to that streamer. So the streamer can create their own stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like
that's a cool model for sure.
Like I don't know, man. Because again, it's to me, that's what it should be. The creators of the content should be the profiters of the revenue, and be able to do things like, let's say he was going to do. So let's say you're a famous streamer. We're going to do the Loyldoyl hat, right, or whatever, and so you say, well, I'm going to make 10 copies of it, right? So it's like the, I don't know, Horcruxes or whatever, however you want to describe it. So you break it into 10 pieces, right? And then you can maybe give those away to streamers. You can use them for promos. Those are NFTs. So you create 10 original asset NFTs. And what that means is for every dollar of profit that comes in, each one of those gets paid 10 cents.
Okay.
Right? So you can own all 10 and get $1 of every dollar, or you can sell them individually. You can give them away for contests. But those original assets, so we're not printing thousands of them. We're printing a handful. And we're using them simply to track the value, so like when you log into Upland and
and the NFT, which is like essentially you can think of as like a mold to print to make more of those things, right?
Yeah.
Having ownership of that is part of the investment side because people could sell those, people could hold on to them, like. So pretty much if you see future potential of something, that's where the investment shifts of like, okay, I want to buy this and then promote this. So like I may not even as a content creator have to create content, but I could work with an artist I really like, and then we could come up with like a rev share model right? Where we're both
Super
getting
easy.
compensated. He's the original artist. I'm a big promoter of that thing. We're we're both winning. We're both happy. Is that kind of the model?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's the beauty of the model is exactly what you're saying. Like the revenue share, it's just like, well, if you wanted to do 60-40 or even 50-50, if you want to do 50-50, you go, okay, we're going to make 10 and each get five, or we're going to make two and we each get one. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. Like that's still 50-50, but then an individual can sell off part. It's like a part ownership of that model, right? and and like there's a couple different ways to do it, and that's an easy if we're making new and then going out, right? Let's take existing, because you go, okay, that's great, but I have all these Upland assets, right?
Yep.
Like I have my own Series 1 car, and then I have another one that I pre-ordered, and I think I have two of the Series 4 and a semi truck, all
Wow.
like prepaid, from different buyers. And so I go, that's cool, but like, what? Okay, what's layer two going to offer me? Well, how about this? How about there's a racing game, but if you have a race car, you can race for free. However, if you don't have a race car, when you go and you pay, I don't know, 100 UPX to race, and you select one of the cars, right? And you're like, oh, I want the yellow Series 1, or I want the red Series 1. Boom. Well, now because you selected that as your game piece, we can have people essentially escrow in or put against their own car to say, hey, I'm going to park this in the UPX.world garage.
Yep.
And then if somebody plays and they rent it, then I get a profit share of that.
Yep.
So if there's, three black cars parked in the garage, then they each split it three ways. If there's one red car in the garage, then they get all of it. And if there's no cars, then we still offer it. It's just no one's making money. And then we go, hey, if you own a silver car, you should park it in this game because it's going to give you revenue share. And like that's the model of like, and in fact, actually, if there was no gray stake, like it might even be grayed out in the game. Like you can't select that car. Like, so that way we say you can't even, unless somebody stakes their token, their asset against it, we're not even going to let anybody play with it, because essentially
Yeah.
you commission it. You're saying, hey, you can use the likeness of this thing that I own. And we're going to be doing that with block explorers. We're going to be doing that eventually, maybe with NFLPA. I'm not going to speculate on that one too much because there's still a lot of things up in the air on that. But certainly cars, certainly block explorers. I'm a big block explorer fan. Even properties, man, neighborhoods. So I mean, Bones Balboa. I'll bring up Bones, my dude. Like we're gonna be doing a profit share of like if you own a Bones Balboa property, and when we open up the Bones Balboa amusement park, right? And let's say that I think there's 152 buildings in Bones Balboa. So let's just say we charge 152 UPX per entry, right? And then essentially, anytime somebody plays it, every owner gets one UPX.
Yep.
And so if we get 10,000 visitors, everybody gets 10,000 UPX, right? Like that's pretty good. And now I have a passive revenue against my asset. So, and that passive revenue goes up with more players as the interest goes down, right? Because as more layer two gets launched and there's more ways to make money, that's where Upland's going to really start hitting down that interest rate. Because
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to keep paying out that amount if there's ways with layer two, like what I just described, to now generate
Okay.
significantly more passive income for a much smaller. And this is where it gets like, I know it's going to hurt some people where and this is why I've been saying, like, I don't think the strategy is buying thousands and thousands of properties necessarily anymore. I think it's communities, it's getting connected, because those that are going to offer you potentially passive income outside of Upland to supplement when Upland starts bringing down it, you're going to have neighborhoods that are earning significant amounts of passive income
Yep.
through layer two, where the street over, they're not earning anything. And so the value separation between those coordinated communities that are
Yeah.
participating actively in layer two. And I'm not talking just from profit share either, because there's a lot of other areas where coordinated communities can drive value back to their properties. And so, yeah, it's a lot, honestly, but it's where Web3 is going. Like the future of Web3 is layer two. Without layer two, the existing Web3 as we know it just, in my opinion, does not succeed.
Interesting. I love all your takes on this and getting into your thought process with how you are building out and structuring UPX.world. I'm curious, can you kind of walk us through, I know there's a ton to still iron out. I know it's a
Mm-hmm.
fairly new venture, but what does maybe the roadmap look like for the next year, or 2 years, or 5 years, whatever you want to give us, maybe even 6 months, whatever you're comfortable sharing with us. I think it would be cool to share what's coming, what's already here, how can people get involved, and learn more.
Yeah, no, that's a completely fair question, right? So I would say the number one thing right now, the best way to get involved is on Discord, discord.gg/UPX.world.
Okay.
Uh, and the reason you want to do that, we are running tons of bounties and contracts. And this is literally where we are paying for art, for 3D modeling, even backstory creation and lore. It's a really good creators community.
Love it.
Lots of fun to be had, as well as just contracts. So, I mean, we have a marketing manager and Discord managers that get paid, and we have a dev team that's all getting paid. Like there is opportunity, and we're trying to source as much from the existing community as possible to say, hey, like let's make sure that you guys have invested your time, blood, sweat, and tears into layer one, right? The only way to get to mass market is through layer two. So let's give you the first chance to be empowered to do that for yourself, for your community, for whatever.
Okay.
And so Discord, number one. And so if we look at what is coming out next, we're focusing on different experiences. And I think that that's going to be a big theme that you'll start to see emerge in our marketing is, with the experiences. With a tagline we'll be rolling out, experience the future of Web3. And that's kind of what we're going with. And so one of the first experiences that'll probably be live is what we're calling the UPX.world data mines. And that's just a fancy way of saying the data site that everyone knows and loves. But everything we do at UPX.world is completely original to a very large degree. Even the data site, which is something everyone's like, oh, UPX.world, if you're old school, like that used to be the place to get data.
Yeah, that was your go-to spot to get all the data on what properties to buy, best cheapest property to mint, all these fun points that really help you with your play to earn strategy with the layer one of Upland.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw when UPX.world went down, like there was a dramatic, there's a need for this data, right?
It actually affected the economy. It affected the resale market. I noticed a lot of properties I had listed for sale weren't selling as much, weren't selling as often. As soon as that went down, because it made it harder for people to do research. So one thing we know is people need a tool, at least from the base property management game of Upland. People need a tool to do research to make decisions. It's like going to buy a house and not knowing what the comps are in the neighborhood, what they're actually selling for.
Right.
You'd be going in so blind. So I love that. I love that aspect of UPX.world. So that's coming soon. That's relaunching.
Yes. So it is coming soon, and that's not the no offense to Upland. That's not the Upland coming soon. That is an actual. We are. It will be out this year. I want to say it'll be out soon. Like this year, still got several months left. It'll hopefully be out way sooner than the end of the year. But it's a completely new architecture, and I don't want to get super nerdy, but I am for a second because I think that this is important.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
important to understand.
a lot of the existing data sites today, as far as I know, now granted, they might have changed their architecture. I don't believe they have. They're using what we call an unstructured database, probably like a MongoDB. And what that means is like, imagine just, you're writing in a notebook and each page is just data.
Yep.
And so that's unstructured, and you can just like put that on a shelf, right? So that's you, and then you just have shelves and shelves of data. And then somebody's like, well, hey, give me the information of this and this. The 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 processor then has to go and search all those pages and like actually read all the pages because it doesn't know which content is necessarily contained in which. Now there are obviously ways to optimize that and to do some different things and to do some individual caching to make it a little bit better. But I mean, when you start talking about, I think our database holds over 180 million records now, like between all of the transactions.
Wow.
Um, and so having all of that unstructured is very resource intensive on the queries. Where it's super easy is you're just taking it off the blockchain. It comes as a JSON object and you just put it into the database and it works. And it's like, cool, we're happy because a JSON object, it's like a semi-structured, you can actually read it out. So what we're doing with UPX.world is like it's a very structured database. And so I mean, there's probably 40 individual tables. So like a user table and a property table and an asset table and transaction table, and they're all related. So it's a relational database that's like true enterprise level asset management. We stood up an EC2 Amazon instance with a prestige database, and we are dumping it with all this information. But that's going to allow us to get queries tremendously faster, tremendously more accurate, because it'll be index data with relational. Like that's how you manage something the size of what we're going towards. It's just a lot of work to do that, and you have to know ahead of time like what your schema is because it's structured. So instead of it just being free writing on a page, it's like here's 5 mandatory fields. If you're going to write on this page, you must fill these out in this exact way. This is a date field. This is a transaction ID that needs this exact parameter. And so if that data ever changes, if somebody else, like it'll break, it won't work. And so if the data structures change frequently, like it's a huge pain compared to just a data lake, an unstructured data lake. But what we're seeing is like this is blockchain data. This is structured data almost at its most rigid because you can't change the properties of NFTs as such. Like that's the property fields of those NFTs. Full stop. Like it doesn't get much more structured than that, in my opinion. So yeah, it's taken some time, it's taken some iterations, but I'm really happy with the architecture we have. So hopefully one of the first experiences being the data mines will give people some insight to having reporting at a much higher level of complexity and interaction than they were previously used to. From there, other experiences will be around. We do want to bring out the kind of Xlander 3D metaphase experience where you're able to fly around and blow up buildings to some degree, and then the personal metaphase, which is directly tied to if you have a home address in Upland, then you will have a personal metaphase in UPX.world. So that'll be one of your experiences is, hey, true home ownership. You can go walk around, maybe decorate, maybe go throw up that poster, that NFT that you bought,
Yep.
or not the NFT. Well, could technically do the NFT, but then also if you buy a print of that as an in-app purchase, you can hang that up. Like I want to make a little pen. I called it a Block Explorer petting zoo. Like I view Block Explorers very much as like pets or NPCs in this world. Like they're just
cool.
kind of like haplessly walking around, just happy, like do 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 do. And then there's just Xlanders like flying around blowing stuff up. Like we were like living peaceful here, and you guys are like crazy. Um,
So it's going to be a game. Like it's going to be a full on experience with avatars
oh
flying
yeah,
around the city, doing things like that. That's
oh yeah. So I think one of the first games we're looking at that I'll probably design is just a 1v1 where you get zoned into a neighborhood, and then half the houses turn red, half the houses turn blue randomly, and you're either on the red team or the blue team, and you have to fly around and destroy the other team's buildings.
cool.
And so the first one to destroy the buildings wins. Now, the interesting thing is this will take it from essentially a live upland neighborhood. So as that neighborhood grows and evolves, so technically will the game. And then
And it's dynamic and ever changing.
right? So as new decorations or as new, the seasons change, and then all of a sudden it's Halloween, like you'll have Halloween decorations on the buildings, and you'll have Christmas decorations, whatever. And you'll also have, the ability. I really like the idea of like the home team advantage. So like if you're playing and you have a home in a neighborhood, that like that'll prioritize, like you're more likely to get that neighborhood as your base, as like the starting place, because then you should know that neighborhood pretty well.
Yep.
Like if there's a micro house in the back corner of a neighborhood and you're like, dude, no one ever remembers this micro house, so I'm gonna
So
go
you got to
check to
memorize
see.
that. Yeah, you got to memorize the maps.
Right?
That's cool.
And so now it's like a home field advantage where you're like, dude, I want to go, like I know my neighborhood. So if you go against me and you're on my turf, I have a distinct advantage because I know my hood.
That's
And
cool. And
like
then depending on their home address, you could do like you know, home like battles, like neighborhood versus neighborhood stuff. Like that could be
oh,
really cool.
yeah, so the NGS, and that's not the final name, the neighborhood guild system. So in this experience that we're creating for the Upland Metaverse, which is the meta phases, there is going to be what we're calling NGS, Neighborhood Guild System, um, and that will literally have neighborhoods that are able to then level up like a guild. Like you'll be
Wow.
able to compete in neighborhood versus neighborhood. Spud Wars. I mean, I know we actually only got up to like, I don't even know, maybe September of 2020 in the 2 year. But like Spud Wars was the best time I've ever had in Upland. Like without a doubt, it was the best like event that I had that Upland ever did. So yeah, Neighborhood Wars is going to be a huge thing. In fact, it's going to be a whole system of each neighborhood is going to be its own guild. It'll level up. You'll be able to unlock different skins, not just for your Xlander, because keep in mind your Xlander is cool and you'll be able to take that Xlander into all these other experiences. But specifically for this Upland experience, you're going to be able to do different skins for your building. So right now it's a $200 bounty to create a steampunk aesthetic for the base building set. So the small townhouses, the townhouse, apartments, the
Okay.
whatever. And so like literally it's like if you create a skin for these that are it's steampunk, we're going to pay you $200. And then that might be an unlock. So if you reach level 5 as a neighborhood, your neighborhood can use this steampunk skin. And if you have a home address there, your home, maybe you can unlock that, and now your home, you can turn that into a steampunk style, right?
Wow.
And then it's like, oh well, how did you get that? Oh well, our guild's level 5. And then you're like, oh my gosh, well I have to have that. Either I got to get my butt in like busting to get a guild leveled up, or I got to go buy a property in that high level guild. And now again, now you have competitive neighborhoods adding value in a meaningful way.
Wow.
Like,
That's where neighborhoods could almost be like your traditional like clan in lots
oh,
of games. Like
100%. But here's the
that is
beauty of
really
it.
unique idea.
You can be in, unlike a normal game where it's like you have to pick your guild, like, well, now that's interesting. I originally had it slated to where like all you needed to do is own a property to be in that guild. Like that's it. Like if you own a property, you're part of that guild. But maybe there might need to be, if your home address is there, that definitely needs to be an elevated. I got to keep that in mind. Like that's an elevated level of like if that's your home address, that needs to be like almost like
That
you're an
that could
officer.
be like a clan. Yeah, that could be awesome.
Yeah.
You
So
gotta be
like,
you gotta be committed to it. Just like in games, you gotta commit to a clan. Like all these mobile games,
well, and
like
but
you can only
like,
be in one.
well, let's say then that maybe that's where the revenue share, because I was trying to figure out the revenue share of the neighborhood model, especially these big neighborhoods where you might have tons of people and like it's hard to control. But
Yeah.
maybe you just do like the revenue share for people that have that as their home.
Yep.
Right? And you have to have had it as your home, much like Upland, that 30 days, right? So I imagine like that'll be a timer that we'll have access to as well to say, hey, now when you go to Guild Wars and when you go to Neighborhood Wars, only the people who've been like that's your home,
And
you
you're
get to do the
committed to it.
prompt.
You have the 30-day waiting period.
30-day waiting period. So ain't no bandwagon hopping.
Yep.
Like, nope. So you better know, man. Now I'm kind of like, I love my Alamo Square, but now it's just like,
Look at that. We're redeveloping UPX.world live on the podcast. This is awesome. I love that
yeah.
you're open to concepts and ideas and just continuously improving this thing. That's really admirable trait about you.
Thanks. And yeah, I mean, like, it's a very agile. So, development style wise, I come from an agile software development, and that's iterative. Like, we've evolved. And the thing is, like, I stream on UpX World Live on Twitch 6 days a week now. And every stream, we come up with new ideas. There's new lore, there's new concepts, and we can build all of that in
That's
um,
awesome.
because we have this flexible structure that we're working with. Where nothing's there. There's core pillars, right? There's core things that we're sticking to, but we're very flexible with a lot of the other stuff, and even those kind of conversations. And this is why layer 2 is so fun. You can't do this in layer 1. Because if you go, well, why can't Upland do this? Why can't Upland? Because if Upland messes up a feature when they launch it, they could destroy their own economy. Like, it's such a delicate balance. In layer 2, we can just launch some crazy stuff, and if it doesn't work, we shut it down, and no one has lost anything, right?
Nope.
Because you keep all your layer 1 assets. Anything that you've gained in layer 2, you
Layer
would
2 can't alter layer 1. It just is based off layer 1, right?
exactly. So like, we can spin up 10,000 different metaphases and have 9,000 of them fail and still be adding value back down to layer 1 without negatively impacting it.
Yep.
So that
That's powerful.
yeah, like, and people don't, and I feel like people give Upland a hard time because they're like, well, why can't they, like, look at how quick we aren't dealing with their complexities. We don't have to balance an economy. We don't have to manage smart contracts and trying to make sure that all the chain transactions get synchronized correctly. Like, we're just building fun Unity games going, hey, yeah, we'll elevate this and we'll collect the community and we'll empower the community in these spaces by creating these experiences. And so, yeah, it's an incredibly exciting space, honestly. And there's so much
Wow.
opportunity. Like, it's crazy.
Make sure to throw in an RTS game at some point, like an Age of Empires style, going
Oh,
on Upland
well,
map, going to other cities and attacking and stuff. Even like imagine a longer term game like Risk or what's the one that's popular on like Xbox and Nintendo Switch that's like that? That's
like Risk?
it's
Really?
kind of like, but it's like really long. It's like long term, and you can win by like getting to the moon or converting everyone to your religion or
Oh, you're talking
something
about
like.
Civilization?
Yeah, Civilization, like Civ
Oh,
6 type game on
dude, I
Upland
love
map. Like
Civilization.
you could do all sorts of cool stuff. Like with Layer 2, this is the exciting. This is where gamers should get really excited about Layer
Yeah.
2. It's I or but let me just ask you: do you think it can be just as exciting for the traditional investor type player who's into Upland Layer 1 that way to be as excited about Layer 2?
Oh, they should be. Because layer two is your future value.
Okay.
Like, if you don't realize, if you think that you can buy into layer 1 and ignore layer 2 and be profitable, You can't. So layer 2 is the future value of your layer 1 assets. So you don't necessarily need to be a player of layer 2. The beauty is you can be an asset manager and mogul, right? Like this is, as a layer 1 player, owner, etc., like this should be really exciting, especially if you've already created a community. Like if you've been listening to I feel like I don't know that there's a single broadcaster, UCN member, or just community advocate that hasn't preached community. Like I don't think anyone. I don't know if I've heard anybody like, no, you guys should do it alone. Go buy in the corner of the map. That's the best way to do it. Just by yourself. Don't even worry about other people. Like I don't think anyone's ever said that. Because
Get the
that's a
really
terrible
obscure
strategy.
neighborhoods, hold them to yourself, see what happens.
Yeah, like just randomly buy properties. Don't get involved. You'll be all right.
It's true. I haven't heard anybody say that.
Yeah, like because there's good reason, because that's a terrible strategy. So layer 2 is no different. Like you don't have to go, and again, you don't have to play layer 2 if your whole value proposition is understanding layer 1. It's then, okay, how do I leverage my neighborhood? So how do I make sure that I connect my neighborhood to the right layer 2 connections? How do I make sure that I have an artist that's going to be there? How do I, and once the UPX.world studios opens up, where I can then create meta phases for my neighborhood, with racing, RTS, tower defense, all kinds of different games. Like how do I make sure that my community gets there? And again, like this is where the beauty of it is like you can launch a racing game in your neighborhood, and your neighborhood can then do profit share on that. But if you don't have a very popular neighborhood, and you don't have somebody maybe promoting it, or you don't have a way to get the word out about it,
Yep.
it's not going to be super successful. You're not going to really make any money. So like it's all about community, and it's all about layer 2 for value generation. Passive income, we can give you passive income. We have ways to generate passive income on, hear me out, every digital asset you own, Upland or otherwise, in layer 1 has the potential for ongoing passive income when connected properly to layer 2. Like let that sink in for a second. Like true passive income opportunities on any layer 1 asset when done correctly. That's huge.
In gaming environments.
Yeah, because leveraging, you would leverage the layer 1 assets in a gaming environment,
yep.
either as just a gaming asset. So we're working with some. I'm a big D&D fan, MMO RPGs. So like again, imagine you're playing a game and you select a type of character. Like the owner of that character then might receive passive income from your entire journey. So I was a troll priest, shout out to World of Warcraft, like for the longest time. And like, so imagine like you owned the blueprint for the troll priest. And so all of my adventures, like you were, anytime I paid a fee, anytime I bought a potion, like what if you got a tiny bit of that? Like from every troll priest that was in the game, right? Like what? Yeah. How do we do that? That's what we're talking about. Like it's not about every troll priest being an NFT. It's not about me being able to then sell my character. I don't want to sell my character. It's my character. But how do you make sure that every in-app purchase, every interaction has the potential to generate income for layer 1? Like that's what we're talking about. Like imagine you own Candy Crush, but you own the underlying asset to lemons. And so every time somebody matches lemons, you got a little bit of their income. Like that's what we're talking about. Like it's a completely different model than what everybody else is doing. And I think that's why it's going to be successful. And I think Upland understands vertical growth versus horizontal.
Yeah.
It's not Sandbox or Decentraland where they just, every time there's a new partner, they just open up a plot of land and they say, this is this section. It just keeps growing and diluting. Now I know, and people go, well, Upland releases cities all the time. Yeah, but that's just because they're creating new neighborhoods. Like, dude, Rio's a perfect example. Everyone's like, oh my God, all these, they wanted properties to be mintable in Rio. Stop buying Rio and they'll stop releasing it. They need property. Anyway, that's a side note. They're not trying to create new spaces in that sense. They're trying to open up opportunities for new communities.
Yep.
Like, and that's what people need to understand. They're not trying to devalue your assets. They're trying to ensure that new players coming in can create a community for themselves. And they can't do that if their only opportunity is secondary market, because it's very difficult to create and to own enough of anything using a secondary market
Yeah.
to be able to build a community. Like, name one major node that was started after it was sold out by somebody who didn't own it, who just came in and started buying secondary. Like, I don't know of a single case that exists.
Yeah.
And so that's why they keep releasing new land, because they want all these communities to be formed. Your value proposition is building vertical. Like, have a small number here, but build it high. Build a metaverse for everything. Boom, here's my racing meta phase. Here's boom, boom, boom. Stack that on top. And then when somebody's playing this and then they realize this property I can actually buy, and then I now own this property in every single meta phase that uses it.
That's cool.
That's compounding value.
Yeah,
Like,
that's cool. I'm
that's how
super excited to like see more of the roadmap and see as more of these things come into play. So we'll have to definitely plan on having you on maybe once a month to stay tuned with everything you're building. So
yeah,
really
no, it's
cool.
gonna be. We're gonna change. We're changing the game literally. Like, this is it. This is the future of Web3. You know what? If you heard how excited I was, and you were there with me in Vegas, of like starting to get ramped up, dude, that excitement. How long ago was that at this point? Months ago.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm ADD. You know I'm ADD. Even in this interview, I'm like squirrel. Like, you know how hard it is to keep me focused and concentrated on something? I quit every game. I'm not playing a single mobile game. I'm not playing a single console game. I'm not playing a single computer game.
You're focused.
Never in my entire life have I not been actively gaming somewhere. I'm not. I'm 100% dedicated to UPX.world. Like, I go to work and then I go to work. Like, 5 p.m. every day, I log out and I log in and I'm streaming. And
well
then
done,
I'm up till midnight, like hustling for it. And so is our community. Like, and it's not just me, because I would be unsuccessful if it was just me. Like, I just can't tell you, like, it's scary. It's almost scary, like, how excited I still am. And in just every day, like, there's just new revelations, and like, dude, this is it.
I love it. I love all the excitement. I love the energy. I love the dedication. I know that you even raised some money for this project, so you're pushing really hard. And honestly, congrats.
Yeah, no, and thank you for saying that. Yeah, so we did close our round one funding. We raised $50,000 at $1 million pre-revenue valuation, which is awesome. Shout out to Spread the Cure, who made an investment, and Orca.digital, who made an investment, and to our anonymous donors, who obviously want to remain anonymous. Not donors. I gotta stop saying that. Investors. They're not donors. They own 5% of UPX.world now, between them. So, like, they're investors. They believe in the project. And in fact, we're going to be doing some insanely fun stuff with Spread the Cure. So they have a meta venture inside of Upland, and they have this motto of health, wealth, love, which we are all about that positivity and love, man. Like, and I'm so excited that we're going to be able to harness that in a really cool way with Spread the Cure. And we have some cool stuff coming. I might even, okay, you want an exclusive? You want an exclusive?
You want the fans what they want.
You want an exclusive? Okay, this is, and now subject to change, right? But so we're making some Spread the Cure swag for your Xlander. So, like, Spread the Cure shirts. And as part of that, so a little bit about the Xlander. The Xlander is a humanoid robot, and its consciousness is the human consciousness merged with AI. There's a whole backstory. It's really cool. Um,
Love that.
you got to check it out. It's actually really intense. Like I read it on stream a couple times, and like I get choked up because it's like it's a little sad. Like there's some sadness in it. And so it's a human brain consciousness merged with AI. It was like humanity's last chance to like save themselves. Um, and so there's going to be this like mechanics versus human like element. Like, are you more human? Are you more robot? Like, are you more organic? Like, or do you fall more towards the AI?
That's
And
cool.
so the cure is going to give you immunity to any human illness, like so any like viral.
If you're
That's like
wearing that, if you're wearing that merch.
if you're wearing that merch, like you are immune to those attacks. So in PvP, if there's some sort of like virus or anything like that, like spread the cure is gonna be like super powerful, of like immunity. Like nope, I get
Love it.
like boom right here, like spread the cure, like it. And so we're really excited about that partnership. I think it's gonna be the messaging is really great. We're gonna incorporate like I'm a really big fan of STEM, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So incorporating some of those. Oh, dude! So that's the exclusive. So that's no. I've never talked to anybody about it. Like that is something that I only talked about with the Spread the Cure team, and so like that's in the works, and that's totally like behind the scenes. The one that was on one of the streams, which is funny, is like um, a math potion, and so like you throw it and it's a confusion, and so you're confused for 30 seconds, or you have to solve a math problem. Like if you solve the math problem, then you become unconfused, or you have to wait 30 seconds till you become unconfused. So
Wow.
like doing stuff like that, which again like takes it to like a different level of like interesting. And so like because you could imagine like racing right now, because one of our and see I could talk about this all day, Doyle. Like you don't even understand. I would like this is all I've been
Hey,
talking.
this is a podcast. What we're here to do is talk.
I talk 20 hours a day about this. My fiance left the state. It was like she's like, you're gonna be talking about UPX.world again all weekend, aren't you? Yeah, I'm gonna go visit my girls. And I'm like, bye. Like have fun because I'm gonna be talking UPX.world. Um, and so the math one. So one of the biggest challenges, and we're seeing with Upland is like you want skills based games, right? Like that's important to you don't want it to be luck. You don't want it to just be roll the dice, but then balancing that, especially blockchain because of the way the technology of like those transactions, but even in non blockchain situations of like server lag or like anything like that, like any sort of competitive head to head gets kind of complicated
Yeah.
and can really turn sour quick. So we're looking at ways of like, let's just take the upland racing and let's say it's completely automated. Well, what if you could then still like use a power up or use an interrupt where asynchronously, like you had to complete a mini game or an activity, and then that would impact like, but then it's again, it's asynchronous in the sense of you do the activity and it then impacts the game, but like each player can kind of do so independently, and then the output is still the same regardless of the lag. So then
Cool.
it essentially it kind of makes it like turn based plus a little bit of real time because if you just like don't answer the question or you fail the mini game, like that will slow you down or whatever.
Yeah,
So
turn-based strategy could work really well as like a first start, you know.
yeah, no, turn based. I love turn based. I love
Yeah.
turn based strategies
You
a
ever
lot.
played oh man. I'm going to forget the name.
Are you
I'm
talking
mad.
about the alien where you shoot aliens?
One of my favorite games is a turn-based game on it was on Xbox like War, I think it starts with W. Um
Describe it.
but it would be really cool to build one like this actually. I'll share it with you when I find out what it is, but
What's it
um
like? What's the describe it?
It's like a indie game, so I doubt you might not know this one, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing if I can pull it up in my library or something. Of
What's it like? You're giving me nothing.
turn-based, you can play a different character, so this could be like where a block explorer comes into play, because there's maybe like 10 different starting characters, but then you like each round, each turn you earn more points to spawn new items like a tank or lower powerful things, like, so you have like, you're pretty much building an army and sending it. It's turn based, dude. It's real, but they're probably only like 30-minute games if you're both playing nonstop. But that is it's super fun.
Yeah. So, and there is actually a team working on something very similar. And I don't want to divulge too much about what they're working on.
It's called Wargroove. Wargroove.
Wargroove?
Dude, that game is epic, man.
Hold
You've
on.
got to check it
I'm
out.
writing it down, man. I'm writing it down. Wargroove. I'll take a look.
So, and very simple graphics, like perfect for blockchain type of a thing. And yeah, you could incorporate a cool Wargroove style turn-based strategy game. You could even throw tournaments. What really excites me about blockchain too is like maybe betting with UPX on like tournaments or something like that. I don't know.
I
if
hear
you want to.
I know people want to. I do, and I hear you. I'll be honest. UPX.world is not going to be in that field. So, like, and I don't want to discourage anybody from doing anything they want to do. You should absolutely do whatever you want to do. I will say, like, I would be careful with because obviously Upland's going towards a partnership of third parties, right? So if you break the terms and conditions, like for instance, you can't have a gambling game.
Yeah, can't have gambling.
Like you really can't. So I think that those will remain in the shadows as far as Upland is concerned, and definitely as far as UPX.world is concerned. We just don't have any, because of all the regulations and the restrictions, and like we plan on having iOS store games, and eventually we want to be on Steam and Xbox and all of that. So we aren't, gambling, adult content, excessive drug use, any drug use. It's just not.
But I mean, you could do tournaments, right? You could do there could be
tournaments for sure, because we're gonna have like neighborhoods,
prizes and things like
much
that.
like Risk, like we're gonna have like take over the city, right? So imagine we do the tournaments, like every city then competes to like see who can take over the territory, much like you said in Risk, and then
take over neighborhoods next to you first, gain more land.
Yeah.
Then neighborhoods will go crazy enough to start buying up other neighborhoods near them. Like that.
Possibly.
This is where layer 2 could actually influence layer 1 big time. Like,
well, I think it can positively influence layer 1 for sure. I think it can positively influence it for sure. So imagine a tournament where, again, so it starts out the first, let's say, 2 weeks of the tournament is neighborhood versus neighborhood in a city, right? So you have a battle map, and each neighborhood's a different color, and just like Risk, right? And then at the end of that 2 weeks, for whoever has the most, or if you've captured the entire city, like you're now the city champion. But now the second part of that tournament, city versus city. So now you're like, okay, I know that this week we were enemies, but this week we're allies because it's city versus city. So now you put away your individual player vest and you put on your San Francisco vest. You put on your Brooklyn vest. Like, all right, that's cool. You won the weekly tournament, so you're representing your neighborhood represents the city in the global competition now.
That's cool.
Love
that. Love ideas like that.
Let's go. I'm rolling through Rutherford with tanks. Believe it. Um,
Dude, that is awesome. I love all the ideas. We could honestly sit here and just talk theory and ideas and of games and things we could do for hours. But I know you're busy actually working on building this stuff, so I will let you get back to it. And also just thank you for spending the time here. I think we went on for quite a bit, but
Dude, you called me in like, man, I spent 2 hours with Ben yesterday. I'm like, I'm gonna be spending 20 minutes with you, bro. What are we doing? I got sandwiches to
no,
eat.
I'll lure you in, man. I'll lure you in.
I can
So
talk to you. You're so easy to talk
honestly,
to, man. You
yeah,
create a really good environment. Like I like it. Like I really like it's super chill. Like I feel really comfortable like with you. Like your whole thing is set up really nice, man.
hey, thank
Well
you.
done.
Much
Like
appreciated, my friend.
yeah.
But I think to close out, is there anything else you'd like to share with the people?
Oh man, I could go. I got so many stories. We'll have like a dish session, man. We'll have you said you want to like the Joe Rogan experience, man. We'll Joe Rogan it up one day. We'll
All right.
we'll get out all the tea.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll get you back soon, especially as new experiences come out with UPX.world here at the Upland Show. We will keep you updated with everything going on Upland related and all these other cool projects. Obviously, UPX.world is one of the first ones that's really pushing massive third-party development and tools and games and everything beyond. So obviously we're going to give them the highlight to show off some of the cool stuff going on in Upland. And thanks so much, TML, for being here and for doing that for us.
Absolutely, brother. Happy to do it.
All right, and we'll catch you next time. Peace
Cheers.
out.